Remember back when news was just coming out about Alex's thefts? And among the very first actions, Alex's brother Randy and John Parker from his former law firm jumped the line with their hands out to claim foul. And while Alex didn't plead guilty until last week for his actual victims, he immediately signed a confession of judgment so his brother and John Parker could be paid first. Good times, right? Well, it looks like history is repeating itself, but this time it's Palmetto State Bank. You want to see what I'm talking about? Let's get started. This is Legal Updates with Kassidyo'connell. Is Palmetto State Bank protecting Russell's assets? Welcome. November 27th, 2023, Palmetto State Bank filed an abstract of judgment. Looking at the date, we see this is the day before Alex's sentencing hearing. Why is this weird? Looking at this document that they filed, under when docketed, what date do you see there? August 2nd, 2023, 4 months ago. What happened on August 2nd? This was Russell Laffitte's formal judgment. That was 4 months and 20 motions ago. But on August 2nd, 2023, we heard nothing from Palmetto State Bank. Let's look at some other important dates. Russell was first indicted on July 20th, 2022. He filed his first not guilty plea on July 27th, 2022. After finding more offenses, his indictment was updated with the superseding indictment on August 17th, 2022, to which he once again filed a non-guilty plea on August 24th, 2022. With further investigation came even more charges, resulting in a third indictment, or what's known as the second superseding indictment, which was filed on September 20th, 2022, to which, of course, a third not guilty plea was entered on September 23rd, 2022. Since then, Russell's trial started on November 8th, 2022, and he was found guilty on November 22nd, 2022, the final day of the trial. He appealed, filed motion after motion, and prolonged his report date multiple times until he was finally taken into custody September 28th of this year, over 2 months ago. We heard nothing from Palmetto State Bank. Now, all this time later, on November 27th, 2023, we hear from Palmetto State Bank. First things first, though, what is an abstract of judgment? It's a document that discloses the amount a creditor or injured party has been awarded by a court's decision. It usually includes interest and whatever fees may have occurred in that particular case. In this case, it's the amount the federal court found that Laffitte owed, and Palmetto State Bank has been so kind as to waive the interest fees. How kind they are to Russell. It usually results in a lien on the defendant's property and assets, in this case, Russell's. It's interesting that they showed absolutely no interest in filing this until now. How much did Russell owe and to whom? When Laffitte was sentenced, we covered this, but in his judgment document, along with his prison sentence, it outlined the numbers. His total restitution amount was over $3.5 million, with the majority owed to Palmetto State Bank, but a pretty good amount owed to the Parker Law Group, or the law group formerly known as PMPED, with the latter being owed $1,207,016.14. The remainder owed to Palmetto State Bank $2,348,868.66. So all this time has passed since the judgment with them not filing anything. Makes you wonder if they had any intention at all of ever filing. Had they planned to leave Russell's property alone, to wait there for him upon his return from prison? After all, This bank has been in Russell's family for generations, with most of the key players being related. Russell was the banking equivalent of Alex in the Murdoch clan, coming from a long line of generational wealth and power, controlling a high-profit family business, in this case a bank instead of a law office. But we'll come back to this. The question is, what changed? What made them file now, after all this time? I was reviewing the lawyer's statements from the sentencing hearing for my next podcast, and I had my aha moment. This is it.
And I stand up here, Your Honor, to simply correct the record. They didn't steal $1.325 million from my clients. The bank didn't help. The bank was complicit in every step of the way in enabling Alec Murdoch to steal and pull this off. I stand up here merely to correct the record that my people have not been made whole. We are going to continue to seek accountability from the people that enabled him, that helped him, that were complicit in the thefts of their money. And so that's the reason I'm here today. Thank you, Your Honor.
This is why, right here. Could it be that they realized that the people that Russell and Alex had preyed upon were coming to get what's owed them? And though they had seemed more than willing to leave Russell's properties alone, they apparently now need to grab it to keep it from their victims' hands still. Do they have every legal right to file this? Absolutely. This judgment by the federal court says so. But the part that's maddening about it is just like the law firm and Alex's brother Randy, they want theirs first. It's just in such poor taste because of a little word called culpability. Yes, it was Alex that stole from his clients. Yes, it was Russell that helped him and helped himself to the money too. But can we honestly leave all the blame entirely on these two men? Let's think about a bank. I've never been a teller, but I'm told that at the end of the day, bank tellers don't leave until their drawers are balanced. If there's an error, it has to be discovered and explanations made. We're talking about small amounts that a bank teller handles. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars and ultimately millions. If banks are so careful with the money in their drawers, how much more so with the big amounts? There's also the auditing standpoint. In businesses, taxes are usually required by most states to be filed every quarter as a way of keeping them from getting out of hand by waiting a whole year. There are ledgers that need to be carefully reviewed and calculated. How was Russell able to get away with this? There's paperwork that needs filled out for loans. How were these outrageous loans being given with no one realizing it? How were these outrageous amounts of money leaving this bank without anyone realizing it? Where were the auditors? Where were the accountants? And we're talking about over a decade. When balancing things quarterly and annually, how were these large amounts of money not discovered? Just like the law firm, how was Alex taking millions without anyone catching it? I don't think the law firm or anyone there was actually in on it. I have heard rumors saying that. I don't believe that because they were being cheated too. But how were they so very careless to not notice over $9 million spanning over a decade? And doesn't the fact that they missed it make them culpable? I dare say, if they had a client who came to them who had been cheated of millions by a company that had sat on over a decade's worth of thievery, they would have taken every dime from them and held them accountable ×3 as the law allows. But when it comes to themselves, they don't want to accept that responsibility. They did the absolute minimum, paying people the amounts that Alex had stolen, not paying interest, not paying the fees they would have had to pay if they'd been taken to court, not paying the fees they would have demanded if those clients had been wronged by someone else. This right here is the issue. Of course, they want to get money back that they lost having to pay Alex's clients. Of course, they took huge hits to pay them back. But where is the accountability for the role they played in allowing it all to happen in the first place? One big point here is that both Randolph, Alex's dad, and Charles Lafitte, Russell's dad, were collecting paybacks on loans to their greedy sons in six-figure amounts. In both cases, their sons had collected huge loans from them and then suddenly had it in cash to pay it back. They both worked with their sons. They knew pay schedules. They knew salaries. Where did they think these large amounts of money were coming from? Both of these men had access to accounting ledgers, but did nothing to check on their sons' suspicious behaviors. How were they not suspicious? Was this the way things had been? Was the auditing purposefully lax so that these things would not be caught? I really cannot understand this, especially in the bank, where every penny, every day, is carefully accounted for. But back to the point, like I said, it's perfectly legal for them to come forward and file this abstract of judgment. That's not the issue. The issue is they didn't seem to have an interest until it looked like it might be taken from Russell, and then they jumped in the day before Alex's victims were about to speak, while the last bits of Alex's assets are currently being divided up in the last of the claims allowed against him. And the topic of compensation would be in the spotlight once again. They knew that the Victims' Bill of Rights was about to be exercised and that these victims were going to have their say in court. And then suddenly, 2 months and 20 motions later, they file. In closing, I take a line from Emma by one of my favorite authors, Jane Austen. Badly done, Palmetto State Bank. Badly done. This is Cassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.